There are basically two very strong opinions. Some growers believe that we shouldn't be putting fungicides on our national variety trials. They want to see how they stand up in commercial conditions without being helped by fungicide. On the other side, we have a lot of varieties that unfortunately now have become susceptible to stripe rust, but are still good varieties, they're locally adapted, and growers want to see what their maximum yield is without the disease.
Peter Matthews has been managing national variety trials for 6 years. He looks after the 166 winter cropping trial sites in New South Wales. At each site, up to 100 different varieties have been sown.
All trials are generally managed best management practice for the local region, which is in coordination with the grower or our cooperators.
And as fungicides are regularly used in some areas, last year a decision was made to trial their use in the NVTs.
We had 9 sites where we had paired fungicide and no fungicide, looking at this issue of the effect of stripe rust on different varieties and the responses.
This year, fungicide use will be formally included at wheat NVT sites to control stripe rust.
We'll have 9 sites where we'll have fungicide treated on 3 replicates. We'll have 1 replicate that won't be treated, so growers get to visually assess the presence of disease in those plots if they want to come and visit the sites in spring. Wheat breeders can come and visit those sites to see the reaction of actually their varieties to the stripe rust in the field. But what it means is that data then can be pooled across those 9 sites to give growers a wider look at how those varieties perform across the state.
Mike O'Hare is one of the growers who's not convinced that reliance on fungicides is the way to go.
I'm not a real fan of that. Traditionally, Australia has relied on breeding to keep ahead of diseases, and I see stripe rust as no different to that. It's a bit difficult because the pressure from stripe rust has wiped out so many varieties that fungicides do have a place perhaps at times, but the main way of managing that should be through resistant varieties, so I'd like to see that maintained.
Although NVT requires that all varieties entered for testing meet minimum resistance standards, in years of strong pressure like 2010, spray protection is often required.
Because you have to remember, for the previous 20 years before this new incursion of stripe rust came in, we were well serviced by our breeding programs and plant resistance to stripe rust. At the moment, unfortunately, stripe rust has got the upper hand, and our breeding programs are slowly trying to catch up with the new resistant material.
Keeping ahead of disease through variety selection rather than a reliance on chemicals is how Mike O'Hare prefers to go, if he can.
We made it an objective to try and keep ahead of disease by adopting the new varieties, and so far we've managed that quite successfully and hope to keep doing that. But I'm not saying we wouldn't use fungicide, and this year we will be on one particular variety that has broken down but hasn't broken down widely. So we'll grow that variety with fungicide, but it's got a short life here probably.
While breeders strive to stay ahead of diseases such as stripe rust, growers continue to use fungicides, and it's an expense they'd prefer to do without.
Across New South Wales in the current season, we've got about 3.2 million hectares of wheat out there. Now, if we were to put one of the cheapest options in terms of controlling stripe rust once across the entire crop, we're looking at an additional $25 million cost to the industry, to growers.
Regardless of the cost, many growers will be applying fungicides this season, and that has helped shape the thinking of those who had to decide whether or not to include fungicides in the NVTs.
It's a matter of us coming up with what the best balance is and what's going to be most representative of what's happening out there on a farmer's paddock.
Agronomist Terry Edis supports that view.
Well, it's certainly probably what practice on farm is. You know, if a variety is going to stand up without fungicides, well, excellent, well and good, but if a variety still can give you the highest yield and the better end of the day return by applying a fungicide, quite often growers are looking to go that way, just depending on their own risk profiles.
And giving grain growers useful data to make better business decisions is ultimately what the national variety trials are all about, according to New South Wales manager Peter Matthews.
So the whole purpose is to identify the highest yielding variety that is best adapted to the different regions within New South Wales and Australia, which then gives the grower some information to go and select a new variety and improve his overall yield and efficiency on farm.